He went asleep alone, as he always did. The small cabin on the orbital station was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. The lights were dimmed to a warm yellow, and the curved window showed distant stars drifting slowly past. He lay on his narrow bed, one arm thrown over his eyes, trying not to think about how far he was from Earth. His name was Daniel Carter. He was an engineer, not a hero, not a soldier, and definitely not someone important enough to be remembered by history. He fixed power systems, calibrated life support, and complained about the food like everyone else on the station. That was his life, predictable, boring, safe. He had finished a long shift repairing a damaged conduit earlier that day. His muscles still ached, and his mind felt heavy. As sleep pulled him under, his last thought was that tomorrow would be exactly the same as today. He was wrong. When Daniel opened his eyes, the ceiling above him was not metal. It was impossibly high and curved like the inside of a massive dome. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface, shifting colors in slow patterns. The light was soft and cool like moonlight, but it came from no visible source. He blinked several times, convinced he was dreaming. Then he tried to sit up and felt resistance. Something light but firm rested across his chest. His heart jumped and he sucked in a sharp breath. The air smelled different too, cleaner, sharper, with a faint metallic edge. Daniel turned his head slowly. He was not alone. Beside him lay a figure taller than any human woman he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like polished stone under starlight, pale silver with faint lines that glowed softly along her arms and neck. Long dark hair spilled across the surface beneath them, smooth and perfectly still. Her face was calm, eyes closed, features sharp yet elegant in a way that felt carefully designed rather than natural. She wore something that looked like flowing fabric made of light itself, draped loosely over her form. One long arm rested across Daniel's chest, fingers relaxed, claws delicate but unmistakably not human. Daniel froze, his mind raced, desperately searching for logic. Alien. That was the word his thoughts landed on, heavy and terrifying. An alien was sleeping next to him. He did not scream. He did not move. He barely breathed. Slowly, the alien woman opened her eyes. They were deep violet, glowing faintly as they focused on him. For a brief moment, confusion crossed her face. Then her expression changed, tightened, followed by something Daniel could not immediately name: recognition. She pulled her arm back and sat upright in one smooth motion. The movement was graceful, powerful, and effortless. Daniel scrambled backward until his back hit something solid. Only then did he realize the bed was enormous, carved from a single piece of dark material etched with glowing symbols similar to the ceiling. The woman looked down at him, studying him as if he were a puzzle that should not exist. The silence stretched. Finally, she spoke. The words were not English, but Daniel understood them anyway. Not because they were translated aloud, but because they appeared directly in his mind, clear and unmistakable. "This is not possible," she said. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't know where I am," he replied, surprised to hear his own voice steady. "I think there's been some kind of mistake." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "There are no mistakes in the bonding chamber." Bonding chamber. Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. "I went asleep on a human station," he said carefully. "I didn't agree to anything. I didn't even know other species existed until a few months ago." She stared at him longer, then slowly stood. Only then did Daniel see the room properly. The walls curved outward, carved with massive symbols and embedded crystals. Tall figures stood along the edges of the chamber, guards, he realized, with armored bodies, glowing eyes, and weapons unlike anything he had ever seen. Every one of them was watching him. And then, as one, they knelt. Daniel's breath caught. The guards lowered their heads, pressing fists to their chests in a gesture that felt ritualistic. A deep, resonant sound filled the chamber like a chant spoken in unison. "Honor to the consort," they said. Daniel's knees went weak. The alien woman turned slowly, her posture stiff. "Rise," she commanded. The guards obeyed immediately, but their gazes did not leave Daniel. Some looked fearful, others looked awed. "Consort." Daniel shook his head. "No," he said. "No, that's wrong. You have the wrong person." The woman faced him again, her expression unreadable. "You share the bond mark," she said. "I feel it. The law has bound us." She raised her hand, and Daniel felt a strange warmth spread across his chest. Looking down, he saw a faint symbol glowing just below his collarbone. It pulsed softly, matching the glow of a similar mark on her own skin. His stomach dropped. "What law?" he asked. The oldest law of my people, she said. When the queen's life is saved within the bonding field, the one who survives beside her becomes her equal, her mate. Her consort? Daniel stared at her in disbelief. I didn't save anyone, he said. I don't even know how I got here. Her jaw tightened. That is what makes this troubling. She gestured, and the guards stepped back. The air shifted, and a transparent barrier formed between Daniel and the rest of the room. Not a cage, he noticed, more like protection. For generations, she continued, no being has survived the bonding field except one born to it. Not warriors, not champions. Not enhanced minds, yet you, she paused, eyes narrowing. A human, Daniel laughed weakly. Trust me, I'm not special. Her gaze flicked to him sharply. Your species survives on a death world, she said. Your bodies are fragile, your minds unshielded, and yet you lived. Daniel did not have an answer for that. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange in that place. Daniel was given clothing that adjusted itself to his body, simple and comfortable. He was offered food that tasted unfamiliar but nourishing. All the while, he was watched. Not imprisoned, observed. The queen, he learned her name was Zyra, summoned scholars, advisors, and machines that hummed and glowed as they scanned him. They searched for hidden augmentations, psychic implants, artificial organs. They found nothing. Daniel Carter was exactly what he said he was, a human engineer with average strength, average intelligence, and a very confused expression. The results unsettled them. Zyra dismissed the others and faced him alone again. If the law stands, she said quietly, then you are bound to me. My empire will see you as a symbol or a threat. I don't want power, Daniel said honestly. I just want to go home. She studied his face for a long moment, then sighed, an oddly human gesture. So do I, she said, but neither of us may have that choice now. Outside the chamber, word spread faster than light. An alien queen had taken a human consort, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The next time Daniel slept, he did not trust it. He lay on a wide couch in a guest chamber that was too clean, too quiet, and too expensive-looking for a man who used to live inside a small metal box orbiting Earth. The air was always the same cool temperature. The lights shifted like slow waves. Even the walls felt alive, like they were listening. He kept his eyes open for a long time, staring at the ceiling and trying to understand what had happened. His thoughts moved in circles. He tried to remember every detail of the last normal day on the station. His tools, the control panels, the smell of heated wiring. He tried to remember when he had closed his eyes. He tried to remember if he had felt a sting, a vibration, an alarm. Nothing, only sleep. Then he had woken up next to a queen. Daniel turned his head and saw two guards outside the transparent doorway. They did not stand like board security on a human station. They stood like statues. Their armor had layered plates that caught the light. Their faces were covered by smooth masks with narrow, glowing lines where eyes should be. He swallowed and sat up. A small floating panel drifted toward him on silent force. Symbols danced across it. Then, slowly, the symbols shifted, and simple English words appeared. Welcome, consort. Daniel stared at the word consort like it was an insult. He reached out and touched the panel. It reacted like water that was somehow solid. The words changed again. Request, nutrition, request, information, request, audience. Daniel let out a slow breath. Information, he said. The panel flickered. A new set of words appeared. You are within the Imperial Heart. You are legally bonded to Queen XYRA of the VELARI Dominion. Your status is recognized by ritual law. Daniel rubbed his face. I didn't sign anything. The panel did not respond to that. It only waited as if his feelings were not part of the system. He tapped again. Audience. A pause, then, audience granted after the morning rite. Daniel frowned. Morning rite? The door shimmered and a tall figure stepped inside. It was not Zyra. This one was older, with pale blue skin and a long neck marked by thin glowing patterns. Their eyes were large and dark, and their clothes were layered in formal folds like a robe. The figure held their hands together respectfully, but did not bow low like the guards had. Consort Daniel Carter, the figure said, and the words arrived in Daniel's mind as clear as spoken English. I am Sale, voice of the court. I am tasked with your guidance. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Guidance in what? How to survive being kidnapped? Sale's expression did not change much, but their tone softened. You were not taken by hands, you were taken by law. That's not better, Daniel muttered. Sale stepped closer, stopping a respectful distance away. There is a public right. It must occur. The Empire has already heard. Daniel's chest tightened. The Empire heard what exactly? Sale's eyes blinked slowly. That the Queen's bonding field activated. That the assassination attempt failed. That a human survived within the field, and that the bond mark has formed. Daniel stared. So everyone thinks I saved her. Sale tilted their head. Did you not? I didn't do anything, Daniel insisted. I was asleep. I was in a different solar system. I woke up here. Sale's hands folded tighter. Your confusion is understandable, yet the court fears confusion less than meaning. They will search for meaning inside you. Daniel felt cold. Meaning inside me. Yes, Sale said. They will assume you were sent, that you are a weapon, that your species hides power. Daniel laughed once without humor. We hide power. We can barely keep our stations from falling apart. Sale watched him carefully, as if trying to decide if Daniel was pretending. If that is true, Sale said, then you are more dangerous than they imagine. Daniel blinked. How does that make sense? Sale's voice lowered slightly. Because it would mean that a fragile species survived the bonding field by nature, not by design. And nature is more frightening than strategy. Daniel's stomach turned. Sale moved toward the wall. A section of it opened like a soft curtain, revealing a narrow corridor. Come, Sale said. The morning rite will begin soon. The Queen has requested your presence. Daniel stood slowly. His legs felt heavy. His mouth was dry. He followed Sale into the corridor, and the door sealed behind them with a quiet pulse. The palace was massive. It did not feel built so much as grown. The floors were smooth and dark, warm under his feet. Tall arches rose overhead with glowing patterns. Streams of light moved through the walls like veins. Far above, he could see open spaces that looked like gardens suspended in air, and everywhere there were beings. Some were tall and thin with graceful movements like dancers. Some were broad and plated like living armor. Some moved on multiple limbs. Some floated slightly above the floor. They wore different styles of clothing, different symbols, different colors. But as Daniel passed, they all did the same thing. They stopped. They stared. And then they bowed. Whispers followed him like wind. Daniel kept his eyes forward, forcing himself to walk normally. But inside, panic scratched at him. He was not built for this. He was not trained for diplomacy. He was a man who fixed machines and tried to make rent payments on time. He reached a wide chamber filled with soft light. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by shallow steps. Around it stood rows of officials, advisors, and guards. They formed a ring like a living wall. At the far side, above everyone, sat Queen Zyra on a high seat shaped like a curved blade. She looked more awake now, more controlled. Her hair was braided into patterns that matched the glowing lines on her skin. A thin crown floated just above her head, not touching, held by invisible force. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp. When Daniel stepped forward, the room grew even quieter. Sale leaned in slightly. Stand here, they whispered into Daniel's mind, guiding him to a spot beside the platform. Daniel stood where he was told. Zyra raised one hand. The air seemed to respond. A slow wave of light rolled across the chamber. The officials bowed deeply. The rite begins, Sale announced, voice echoing in a way that did not feel natural. A figure stepped onto the platform. This one wore a long robe with shimmering threads and carried a small object that looked like a crystal bowl. The figure's face was covered by a smooth mask marked with a single glowing symbol. They lifted the bowl and tilted it. A thin stream of liquid light poured out, not falling like water, but floating in a twisting ribbon. The ribbon moved toward Zyra, then toward Daniel, circling both of them like a living thread. Daniel held his breath. The ribbon touched the mark on his chest, and warmth spread through him, not pain, but pressure, like a hand pressing gently from the inside. The ribbon then touched Zyra's mark, and the air hummed. The masked figure spoke a sentence that sounded like a song, and Daniel understood it without knowing the language. Bond confirmed, balance declared. A ripple passed through the officials. Daniel's hands clenched. He did not like the words. Balance sounded like something that came with rules, expectations, chains. Zyra stood from her seat and stepped down. She moved toward Daniel with measured calm. When she reached him, she did not touch him, but her presence was close enough that he felt a faint electricity in the air. Her voice entered his mind. You look like you want to flee. Daniel met her eyes. That's because I do. A very small expression, almost like amusement, flickered across her face. Good, she said. If you wanted to stay, I would worry you were lying. Daniel blinked. That's not comforting, she turned to face the crowd. The bond is confirmed, she announced aloud. Her voice was strong and the chamber carried it like music. The consort is recognized by law. A deep murmur rose. Zyra raised a hand and silence returned immediately. There will be questions, she continued. There will be fear. There will be those who seek to use this moment for themselves. Her eyes swept across the officials like a blade. They will fail. The crowd bowed again. Then something unexpected happened. One of the officials stepped forward without permission. They were tall with dark red skin and a face marked by ridges. Their clothing was formal, but their posture was aggressive. Your Radiance, the official said, voice sharp. The court demands verification of the consort's nature. A chill ran through the room. Daniel felt Sale tense beside him. Zyra did not move. Verification has been completed, she said. The official's ridged face tightened. With palace instruments, not with the Dominion's witness circle, we require public proof. The bonding field is sacred. If an outsider has manipulated it, Zyra's eyes narrowed. The air around her seemed to darken slightly, as if the light itself was careful around her anger. Daniel's instinct screamed at him to step back, but he did not. He took one slow step forward, surprising even himself. He looked at the official. What do you want? He asked. A wave of whispers moved through the chamber. The official turned their gaze to Daniel, and their eyes widened slightly as if they had not expected the human to speak directly. I want certainty, the official snapped. Are you an agent, a trap, a weapon? Daniel's throat tightened. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him. He could feel Zyra watching too, waiting to see what kind of person her accidental husband was. Daniel did the only thing he knew how to do. He spoke the truth. I'm an engineer, he said, loud enough for the room to hear. I repair machines. I don't know your politics. I don't know your laws. I didn't plan any of this. The official's mouth twisted. Then explain why you survived. Daniel exhaled. I don't know. The answer, simple and honest, landed like a rock thrown into still water. The official stared, almost offended. You claim ignorance. Daniel shrugged, though his hands shook slightly. Yeah, because I'm ignorant. If you think I'm some kind of secret monster, you're going to be disappointed. The room buzzed with low voices. Zyra stepped closer to Daniel, not touching, but standing beside him in a way that made the court see them as a single unit. Her voice entered his mind quietly. That was not the answer they wanted, Daniel swallowed. Was it the wrong answer? Zyra's eyes remained on the crowd, but her mind voice softened. It was the most dangerous answer. Daniel's pulse spiked. Dangerous? Because it is believable, she replied. And if it is true, then the galaxy has misunderstood your kind entirely. The official bowed stiffly toward Zyra. Your Radiance, we request the witness circle. Zyra's gaze sharpened. You request to test my consort. The official did not flinch. Yes. For the stability of the Dominion. The words were polite, but the meaning was clear. They did not trust her decision, and they wanted to control the story. Daniel felt anger rise, surprising him again. It wasn't just fear now. It was the feeling of being treated like an object. He leaned slightly toward Zyra. If they test me, he whispered, what happens if I fail? Zyra did not hesitate. They will claim the bond is false. They will try to remove you. They will try to weaken me. Daniel's stomach turned. Remove me how? Zyra's eyes flicked to him. You do not want those details. Daniel nodded quickly. He did not. Zyra lifted her hand again. The air hummed. The witness circle will be convened, she announced, voice steady, but not today. The official's ridged face tightened. Your Radiance, Zyra's voice cut like ice. Not today. Silence fell. The official bowed again, forced, then stepped back into the crowd. Daniel's legs felt weak, but he remained standing. The rite ended with more strange words and glowing symbols. The crowd slowly dispersed, still staring at Daniel as if he were a storm contained in a glass jar. When it was finally over, Sale led Daniel through a side corridor into a quieter hall lined with tall windows. Outside, Daniel saw something that made him stop. A city. Not a city like on Earth. This one spread across floating platforms connected by luminous bridges. Towers rose like crystal trees wrapped in glowing rings. Ships moved silently in the sky, leaving trails of light. And above it all, the curve of a massive structure arched across space like a protective spine. Daniel's mouth went dry. Where are we? He asked. The Imperial Heart, Sale replied. The center of the Dominion, a place many will never see. Daniel stared at the floating city. It was beautiful, it was impossible, and it was not home. Zyra approached from behind, steps quiet. Sail bowed and moved away, leaving them alone. Daniel turned to face the queen. Up close, she looked less like a legend and more like a person carrying too much weight. Her posture was perfect, but her eyes were tired in a way that power could not hide. "I made it worse," Daniel said. Zyra studied him. "You made it real." Daniel frowned. "Real?" She moved closer, stopping at the window beside him. Together, they looked out at the city. "If you had claimed secret strength, if you had spoken like a warrior or a spy, they would have placed you into a box they understand," she said. "But you spoke like a human," Daniel swallowed, "and that's bad." Zyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "It is unpredictable." Daniel stared at the view. "So what now?" Zyra's voice lowered. "Now they will test you through every polite method they can, questions, rituals, traps hidden inside etiquette." Daniel glanced at her. "And you'll let them?" Zyra's expression hardened. "I will control it. If I refuse every request, they will claim fear. If I accept without limits, they will tear you apart with rules." Daniel's stomach knotted. "I didn't ask for any of this." Zyra looked at him sharply. "Neither did I." The words were not angry, they were honest. For a moment, silence sat between them like a third person. Then Daniel said quietly, "Why would your law bind you to a stranger just because he survived near you?" Zyra's gaze returned to the city. "Because the bonding field was designed to protect the queen. It is a living shield connected to my mind. It rejects all others. It crushes their presence. It is not supposed to allow anyone inside it." Daniel's lips parted. "Crushes their presence?" Zyra's eyes flicked to him. "Most die instantly. Some collapse and lose their minds. The field is not a weapon by choice. It is a reflex of survival." Daniel felt sick. He remembered the warmth on his chest, the pressure. If that had been stronger, he might have. He did not finish the thought. "And I survived," he said. "Yes," Zyra replied. "Which means either you are stronger than you appear, or your species interacts with the field in a way we do not understand." Daniel tried to make it make sense. "Maybe your field reacts to something psychic, and humans don't have that." Zyra's gaze sharpened. "Humans have no mind shields?" Daniel shook his head. "We don't even have proof psychic power exists. We have radio, we have lasers, we have stress." Zyra stared at him for a long moment, then her expression shifted slightly, like a door opening. "Stress," she repeated. Daniel frowned. "Yeah, we're good at it." Zyra's voice softened, almost thoughtful. "A species trained by nature to endure pressure." Daniel rubbed his neck. "Trained is a nice word, forced is more accurate." Zyra looked away, as if she understood more than she wanted to. They walked again, deeper into the palace. This time, Zyra guided him personally. Officials bowed as she passed, and Daniel noticed something. When she walked alone, they bowed to her with respect. When she walked with Daniel, some bowed with fear. He did not like that. They reached a smaller room filled with books, real books, not screens. The shelves were carved into the walls. The air smelled faintly of old paper and strange ink. Zyra waved her hand, and the door sealed. The silence inside was thick and safe. "This room is shielded," she said. "No one listens here." Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Thank you," Zyra studied him. "You do not know how to hide your emotions." Daniel shrugged. "Humans aren't great at that." Zyra walked to a shelf and touched a book-like object. "That may be your greatest advantage." Daniel blinked. "How?" Zyra turned slightly, eyes reflecting the soft light. "In the Dominion, most speak through masks, not physical masks," she added, seeing his confusion. "Masks of meaning, polite words that hide threats, ritual smiles that hide knives." Daniel swallowed. "And humans don't do that?" Zyra's gaze held him. "Humans do it, but you do it poorly." Daniel almost laughed. "Thanks." Zyra's lips curved slightly, a small, genuine expression. "It means they will misjudge you. They will not know where to place you." Daniel's humor faded quickly. "So the witness circle, what is it?" Zyra's expression hardened again. "A public court ritual. Elders and officials gather and demand answers. They may ask questions that cannot be refused. They may use devices to measure intent. They will try to prove you are a threat or an illusion." Daniel's chest tightened. "And if they can't prove that, then they will try to prove you are useful," Zyra said. "And usefulness becomes a different kind of cage." Daniel looked down at his hands. His fingers were still the same. Nothing about him had changed except the world. "I just want to go back," he said quietly. "Is that even possible?" Zyra was silent for a moment. Then she said, "If you leave, they will claim I am weak. They will say the bond failed because you rejected it. It would invite rebellion." Daniel's eyes lifted. "So I'm stuck." Zyra's voice was low. For now. Daniel felt a wave of frustration. This is insane, he said. I'm a hostage, but everyone calls it honor. Zyra's eyes narrowed. You are not a hostage. Daniel stared at her. Then what am I? Zyra's voice softened again. You are a problem and a possibility. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. He didn't know what to do with that. Zyra walked closer and held out her hand, palm up. The gesture was calm, not demanding. Daniel hesitated, then slowly placed his hand near hers without touching. A faint warmth moved between them like a quiet current. I did not choose you, Zyra said, but the law did. The Empire will treat you as a symbol whether you want it or not. Daniel swallowed. I don't want to be a symbol. Zyra's eyes held his. Then be a person, she said. It will confuse them more than any secret weapon. Daniel let out a shaky breath. That's your plan. Confuse an empire? Zyra's expression turned sharp with something like pride. It is a beginning. A soft pulse came from the wall, a message silent but urgent. Zyra's gaze flicked to it. They are already moving, she said. Daniel's stomach dropped. Who? The factions, Zyra replied. Some want you removed, some want you controlled, some want to use you to weaken me, and some, she paused, eyes narrowing as if tasting a bitter thought. Some are afraid that humanity has arrived. Daniel stared at her. But humanity hasn't arrived, it's just me. Zyra looked at him as if he had said something naive. You are the first, she said. That is enough. Daniel's throat tightened. He remembered Earth, the messy streets, the arguments, the jokes, the music, the oceans. The imperfect, stubborn people who somehow kept going. If the galaxy thought humans were monsters, it would be bad. If the galaxy thought humans were weak, it would also be bad. He felt trapped between two lies. Then he remembered something simple, something human. Machines broke, you fixed them, you didn't panic forever. You found the problem, you learned the system, you made a plan. Daniel looked at Zyra. Teach me, he said. Zyra blinked. Teach you what? Your rules, Daniel said. Your politics, your language. Everything I need to not get crushed by your polite knives. Zyra studied him carefully. Why? Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. Because if I'm stuck here, I'm not going to spend it terrified, and I'm not going to let your court treat me like a thing. A long silence followed, then Zyra's lips curved slightly again. That, she said, is the most human answer you have given. Daniel exhaled. Is that good or bad? Zyra's eyes glittered. For you, she said, it is survival. She turned toward the door. Come, she said. We begin with the simplest lesson. Daniel followed. They moved through a private corridor that led to a smaller training hall. Inside, the walls were lined with floating symbols and shifting images. A table stood in the center, covered with objects, rings, coins, stones, strips of fabric, small devices that hummed softly. Zyra touched one object and it lit up, projecting a map into the air. Daniel's eyes widened. It showed star systems, trade, routes, borders, and names he could not pronounce. Whole civilizations were marked with colors and symbols. This is the Dominion, Zyra said, and these are the neighbors who pretend to be friends. Daniel stared at the map. That's a lot. Zyra's gaze sharpened. You will learn quickly, Daniel swallowed. I don't learn quickly. Zyra looked at him. You survived my bonding field, she said. Either you are stronger than you think or your species is. Daniel's jaw tightened. We're stubborn, he said. Zyra's eyes held him. Stubbornness is strength when the universe pushes back. Daniel felt something settle inside him. Not confidence exactly, more like a decision. If he had to stand in this world, he would stand as himself. Zyra began teaching him gestures first. How to greet, how to show respect without weakness, how to refuse without insulting, how to notice when a compliment was a threat. Daniel struggled, but he tried. Every mistake made some invisible danger clearer. Hours passed. Daniel's mind hurt. Then Sale appeared at the door, face tense. Your Radiance, they said. A delegation has arrived. Zyra's eyes narrowed. Already, Sale nodded. They demand a formal viewing of the consort. Daniel's heart sank. Viewing? Zyra's gaze moved to Daniel. They want to see if you look like a lie, she said. Daniel swallowed. I look like me. Zyra's expression hardened. Then let them see. They walked toward a reception hall, and Daniel felt the palace change around him. The quiet corridors gave way to wide chambers full of sound. More officials gathered. More eyes watched. The air felt heavier, like a storm building. The delegation entered like a wave of expensive fabric and sharp smiles. They were not soldiers. They were politicians, and Daniel suddenly understood what Zyra meant about polite knives. A tall figure stepped forward, wearing a cloak that shimmered like oil on water. Their face was smooth, their eyes bright, their smile practiced. "Your radiance," they said, bowing to Zyra. Then they turned their gaze to Daniel and smiled wider. "And the human." Daniel kept his face neutral, remembering Zyra's lesson, respect without weakness. The figure's eyes flicked over Daniel's clothing, his posture, his hands. They spoke again. "We are honored to witness the consort." Daniel could feel the trap inside the words. If he responded wrong, it would become a story. He chose simple truth again. "I'm still getting used to being here," Daniel said. A few of the delegation members exchanged looks. Confusion, maybe, or annoyance. Honest answers made it harder to control the narrative. The leader smiled smoothly. "Of course, it must be overwhelming. The Dominion is vast." Daniel nodded once. "Yeah." The leader's smile tightened just slightly. Zyra stepped in, voice calm. "State your purpose." The leader bowed again. "Only to ensure stability, your radiance. The Dominion is concerned." Zyra's eyes sharpened. "Concern is not purpose." The leader's smile did not crack. "Then let me speak plainly. The witness circle will demand a test. Many factions will push for it. If you delay, rumors will grow." Zyra's gaze was cold. "And you offer guidance out of kindness." The leader spread their hands. "Out of loyalty." Daniel felt it, the fake warmth, the controlled tone, the way the word loyalty sounded like a chain. He glanced at Zyra. She looked calm, but Daniel sensed tension beneath it. Then Daniel did something that made several people flinch. He stepped forward slightly and spoke to the leader directly. "What if I agree to be tested?" Daniel said. "But I get to ask questions too." The room went quiet. The leader blinked. "That is unusual." Daniel kept his voice steady. "I'm unusual here." A few whispers rose. The leader smiled again. "You are bold." Daniel shrugged. "Humans do that sometimes." Zyra's eyes flicked to him, sharp, a warning. Or maybe surprise. The leader's gaze narrowed as they studied Daniel. "What questions would you ask?" Daniel didn't have a perfect plan, but he had a human skill. When surrounded by unknown rules, find the simple thing everyone avoids. "I'd ask why you're so afraid," Daniel said. The leader's smile froze. A ripple moved through the delegation. Zyra's posture stiffened slightly. Daniel continued because now he could not stop. "If your queen says the bond is real and your machines say I'm not enhanced, then what's left? That I might change things. That a human being here means your system isn't as perfect as you pretend?" Silence fell like a weight. The leader's voice became sharper. "You speak dangerously." Daniel nodded. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'm learning." Zyra stepped forward, voice like steel. "The consort speaks under my protection," she said. "If you threaten him, you threaten me." The leader bowed, but the bow felt smaller now. Their eyes remained on Daniel. "Then we will depart," the leader said smoothly. "But know this, your radiance, the galaxy watches. Not only the Dominion." Daniel felt his stomach drop at those words. The leader turned and left with their delegation, moving like a beautiful snake, leaving fear behind like perfume. When the doors sealed, the hall exhaled into whispers. Daniel looked at Zyra. "I messed up," he said. Zyra stared at him for a long moment. Then she said, quietly into his mind, "You did not mess up." Daniel blinked. "Then what did I do?" Zyra's eyes glittered with something new, danger mixed with approval. "You reminded them," she said, "that you are not a statue to be displayed." Daniel swallowed. "That's going to make them hate me." Zyra's voice was calm. "Some already did." Daniel's chest tightened. "And the galaxy watches," Zyra nodded slightly. "The news has spread beyond my borders, a queen bonded to a human. It is a story that travels fast." Daniel looked down at his hands again. Same hands. But now those hands were part of a galactic rumor. He felt a strange anger, not loud anger, the quiet kind that became action. He looked back up. "Then we need to control the story," he said. Zyra's gaze sharpened. "We," Daniel nodded. "If they're going to talk about humanity, they should at least talk about the truth." Zyra studied him, then stepped closer. Her voice entered his mind like a private oath. "The truth will terrify them more than any lie," she said. Daniel's throat tightened. "Then maybe it's time they learn to deal with terror," he whispered. Zyra held his gaze. For a brief moment, Daniel saw the empire in her eyes, not the buildings, not the ships, but the pressure. The constant political knives, the rules, the fear of change. And he realized something. She was trapped too, different cage, same bars. Zyra turned away. "The witness circle will come," she said. "Soon." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then I'll be ready." Zyra looked back at him. How can you be ready for a ritual that has destroyed stronger minds than yours? Daniel took a breath. He thought of Earth storms and broken stations and long nights of repairs when everything wanted to fail. I don't know, he said honestly, but I've fixed impossible problems before. You keep working until the machine runs. Zyra's eyes narrowed. And if the machine cannot be repaired? Daniel's jaw tightened. Then you build a new one. The words hung in the air. Zyra's expression shifted again, something like surprise, something like respect. Then she turned toward the doors. Come, she said. We will begin preparing you properly. Daniel followed. Outside the hall, the palace continued to shine and move like a living thing. Officials bowed, guards watched, the Empire whispered. And somewhere far away, across distances Daniel could not imagine, other powers heard the rumor and leaned closer to the stars. A human had survived the Queen's sacred shield. A human now wore a bond mark meant for legends. And the galaxy, filled with ancient civilizations and careful rules, suddenly faced something it did not understand. A stubborn person who refused to be placed inside a box. Daniel did not know it yet, but he had already begun doing the most dangerous thing a human could do in an old and fearful empire. He was being human out loud. And that was only the beginning. Daniel learned very quickly that fear in the palace did not shout. It smiled. The days after the delegation left were filled with quiet pressure. Nothing openly hostile happened. No one raised weapons. No one threatened him directly. Instead, the palace became polite in a way that made his skin crawl. Every hallway greeting was perfect. Every bow was deep. Every word was chosen carefully. And behind every courtesy, Daniel felt questions pushing at him like fingers testing glass. He stayed close to Zyra when he could. Not because she ordered it, but because being near her felt safer than being alone in rooms full of powerful people who pretended not to be curious. The witness circle was announced on the third day. The announcement came not as a loud declaration, but as a quiet ripple through the palace systems. Walls glowed briefly with symbols. Messengers moved with purpose. Officials gathered in clusters, whispering behind calm faces. Sale found Daniel in the training hall, where he was struggling to remember the difference between three similar greeting gestures that could mean respect, challenge, or insult depending on finger position. "It is time," Sale said softly. Daniel's stomach dropped. "Now." "Yes," Sale replied. "The circle has convened sooner than expected. That means the pressure is coming from many sides." Daniel wiped his hands on his clothing without realizing it. "How bad is this going to be?" Sale's eyes reflected sympathy. "That depends on how human you remain." Daniel gave a weak smile. "That's not reassuring." Sale led him through corridors Daniel had not seen before. These halls were older. The walls were darker, marked with symbols that did not glow softly like the rest of the palace, but pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. As they walked, Daniel felt something else too. A faint pressure at the back of his mind. Not pain, not a voice, just awareness. Like being watched from the inside, he slowed. Sale glanced back. "You feel it too," Daniel swallowed. "That's comforting, I think." "The witness circle uses shared perception," Sale explained. "They will not only listen to your words, they will observe your reactions. Your intent, your stress." Daniel let out a breath. "So lying is pointless." "Yes," Sale said gently, "and silence is often interpreted as guilt." Daniel nodded. "Great, no pressure." They reached massive doors carved from dark crystal. Symbols moved across them slowly, rearranging themselves like thoughts. Sale stopped. "Once you enter, the circle will begin. I will not be allowed to speak for you." Daniel's chest tightened. "Will Zyra be there?" "Yes," Sale said. "But even the queen must follow the rules of the circle." Daniel nodded again, feeling very small. "If this goes wrong," Sale's voice was quiet, "it will not end quickly." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of Earth. Of broken machines and long nights and the simple rule he had learned over and over again. Panicking never fixed anything. He opened his eyes. "Let's do it." The doors opened without sound. The witness circle chamber was vast and empty in a way that felt intentional. No decorations, no bright lights. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting the ceiling far above, where faint points of light formed slow-moving patterns like stars. In the center of the room stood a circular platform. Around it, at equal distances, floated 12 seats. Each seat was occupied. The beings in them were unlike any Daniel had seen so far. Older, heavier somehow, as if their presence bent the air. Their forms varied, some humanoid, some not. but every one of them carried an unmistakable sense of authority. Zyra stood at the far side of the platform, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. Daniel stepped onto the platform. The moment his foot touched it, the pressure in his mind increased, not crushing, measuring. A voice filled the chamber, not coming from any single being, but from all of them at once. "Daniel Carter," the circle said. "Human, consort by bond, you stand before us under ritual law." Daniel's mouth was dry. "I understand." "Do you accept the authority of the witness circle for the duration of this rite?" Daniel glanced at Zyra. She gave the smallest nod. "Yes," Daniel said. "I accept." The pressure shifted. "Then speak truth," the circle said, "or be silent and let your silence speak for you." Daniel swallowed. The first question came without warning. "Why did you survive the bonding field?" Daniel's instinct was to say, "I don't know," again, but he paused. He could feel the circle waiting, not impatient, but intent. "I don't know the technical reason," Daniel said slowly, "but I know my species lives under constant pressure. Gravity, radiation, disease, failure, stress. We adapt because we have to." The pressure brushed against his thoughts, testing. Zyra watched closely. "Many species endure hardship," the circle said. "That does not explain survival within a psychic defense field." Daniel took a breath. "Maybe," he said, "because we don't have psychic defenses, nothing for your field to push against." A subtle shift moved through the chamber. One of the circle leaned forward slightly. "You suggest emptiness," the voice said. Daniel frowned. "Not emptiness, noise. Humans are loud inside, thoughts everywhere, emotions overlapping, fear and hope at the same time. If your field tries to find a single point to crush, maybe there isn't one." The pressure intensified briefly, then eased. Zyra's eyes sharpened. Another question came. "Do you seek power through this bond?" Daniel answered immediately. "No." The pressure pressed harder, searching for doubt. Daniel felt his heart race, but he did not change his answer. "I don't want to rule anyone," he said. "I don't want your throne, I want to go home, but I also won't pretend this isn't happening." "Explain," the circle said. Daniel steadied himself. "If I deny reality, I make mistakes. If I accept it, I can choose how to act. That's not seeking power, that's surviving." The circle was silent for a moment. Zyra felt it too, the shift, not approval, but interest. Another voice spoke, sharper. "If your species is so unremarkable, why has no other survived?" Daniel hesitated. Then he said something risky. "Because no other species is human." The pressure surged, but Daniel held his ground. "I don't say that to insult anyone," he continued quickly. "I say it because we evolved differently. You built systems to avoid failure. We built systems assuming failure would happen." The circle's attention sharpened. "Clarify," they demanded. Daniel gestured weakly. "On Earth, things break all the time. We expect it. We design backups, redundancies, emergency plans. We train people to keep going even when scared, tired, or hurt." The pressure probed deeper. "And you believe this mindset allowed you to endure the bonding field?" Daniel shrugged slightly. "Maybe, or maybe I was just lucky. Humans don't always know why something works. We just notice that it does." A ripple moved through the circle. One of the elders spoke with a voice that felt older than stone. "Luck is not a foundation for empire." Daniel met the unseen gaze. "Neither is fear." The chamber went very quiet. Zyra's fingers curled slightly at her side. The circle did not react with anger. Instead, the pressure shifted again, changing shape. A new test began. Images filled the air around Daniel, rapid flashes of light and shadow, scenes of destruction. Alien cities falling, ships burning, faces twisted with grief and rage. Daniel flinched. "Observe," the circle said. "Respond." The images intensified, a world cracking under stress. A system collapsing because one small failure spread too far. Daniel's breath quickened. His heart pounded, but something else happened too. His mind began to categorize. That's a failed support structure. That's a lack of redundancy. That system depended on a single control point. He spoke without thinking. "Your designs are too clean," he said. The circle paused the images. "Explain," they said. "You build things that work perfectly," Daniel continued, voice shaking but steady. "But perfectly means fragile. When one thing fails, everything fails." The pressure sharpened, not angry, but focused. "You criticize civilizations older than your species," the circle said. Daniel swallowed. "I repair machines built by smarter people than me. Age doesn't mean unbreakable." Zyra's eyes widened slightly. The images shifted again. This time they showed people, beings under stress. Interrogations, trials, pressure applied carefully, precisely until minds bent or broke. Daniel felt nausea rise. "Respond," the circle said. Daniel clenched his fists. "This is cruelty," the pressure spiked. "You judge us," the circle demanded. Daniel shook his head. "No. I recognize this. Humans do this too. We just learn something from it." "And what is that?" "That pressure doesn't make people honest," Daniel said. "It makes them desperate." The circle pushed harder, probing his emotions. Daniel's chest hurt. Memories rose, long nights, failures, fear of losing everything. He gritted his teeth. "If you want truth," he said, "you give people room to breathe. Otherwise, you only learn what they think you want to hear." The pressure eased slightly. Zyra felt it clearly now. The circle was not trying to crush Daniel. They were adjusting. The voice spoke again, slower. "You claim your species thrives under chaos." Daniel shook his head weakly. "No, we suffer a lot, but we keep going anyway." "Why?" Daniel laughed softly, a sound edged with exhaustion. "Because stopping hurts worse." Silence filled the chamber. Then the pressure changed entirely. Instead of probing, it expanded. Daniel felt something new, connection. Not thoughts entering his mind, but awareness brushing against it. The circle was no longer testing him alone. They were comparing. Zyra felt it too, a subtle resonance through the bond mark. The circle spoke again, and this time the voice held something unfamiliar. Concern. "If your species enters the wider galaxy," they said, "it will destabilize systems." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, probably. Do you deny this?" "No," Daniel said honestly. "Change always breaks things." The pressure pressed gently now, like a hand on his shoulder. "Then why should we allow it?" Daniel took a deep breath. His head hurt, his body ached, but his answer came from something simple. "Because systems that can't survive change," he said, "were already broken." The chamber went utterly still. Zyra's breath caught. One of the circle leaned back slightly, as if reevaluating everything. "You speak as if destruction is acceptable," they said. Daniel shook his head. "No, I speak as someone who's seen what happens when you pretend cracks aren't there." The circle withdrew the pressure slowly. "Final question," they said. Daniel's heart pounded. "What do you intend to do as consort?" Daniel looked toward Zyra. She met his gaze, steady and sharp. He turned back to the circle. "I intend to not be what you expect," Daniel said. "I won't be a weapon. I won't be a figurehead. I won't lie about what I am." "And what are you?" the circle asked. Daniel exhaled. "I'm human," he said, "and humans fix things by breaking old rules and making new ones that work better." The silence that followed was different, heavy, thoughtful. The circle spoke again, and their voice no longer pressed into Daniel's mind. "The rite is concluded." The pressure vanished. Daniel nearly collapsed, catching himself just in time. Zyra stepped forward instantly, placing herself beside him. Not touching but close enough that the bond mark warmed, the circle addressed her now. "The bond is valid," they said carefully. "The consort is not a construct, nor a deception." A ripple moved through the chamber. "However," the circle continued, "his presence represents instability." Zyra lifted her chin. "So does stagnation." The circle paused, then one of them spoke directly to Zyra. "You have bound your reign to change." Zyra's voice was calm. "Then let us see if the Dominion deserves to survive it." The circle did not answer immediately. Finally, they spoke together. "The consort will remain under observation," they declared. "But no action will be taken against him, not at this time." Daniel's knees went weak. Zyra did not bow. She inclined her head once. The circle faded, their seats dissolving into light. The chamber dimmed. Daniel finally let out a long breath. I think I passed." Zyra looked at him. Her expression was unreadable, but something fierce burned in her eyes. "You did something worse," she said quietly. Daniel blinked. "Worse? You convinced them," Zyra said, "that humanity is not dangerous because it is strong." Daniel swallowed. "They now fear you," Zyra continued, "because you are honest." They left the chamber together. Outside, the palace felt different. The whispers were louder, the looks sharper, the fear less hidden. Sale met them in the corridor, eyes wide. "You survived," Sale said. Daniel nodded weakly. "Barely." Sale looked at Zyra. "The news spreads already." Zyra's gaze hardened. "Let it." They walked back toward the private chambers. Daniel's legs felt heavy, but his mind raced. "I didn't mean to start anything," he said quietly. Zyra glanced at him. "You did not start it," she said. "You revealed it." Daniel stopped walking. "Is that going to get people killed?" Zyra stopped too. Her voice was low. "Change always carries risk, but without it, collapse is guaranteed." Daniel looked down at the floor. On Earth, we argue about this stuff all the time. Zyra studied him, and yet you continue. Daniel nodded. Yeah, because giving up is worse. Zyra turned toward him fully. Do you understand what you have done? Daniel hesitated. I made myself a problem. Zyra's lips curved slightly. You made yourself impossible to ignore. She placed a hand over her bond mark. The air hummed faintly. The galaxy will react, she said. Some will try to isolate humanity, some will try to control it, some will try to destroy it before it grows. Daniel's chest tightened. And Earth doesn't even know. Zyra's eyes sharpened. They will. Daniel looked up. How? Zyra's gaze turned toward the distant stars beyond the palace walls. Because after today, she said, silence is no longer an option. Daniel felt the weight of it settle fully now. He had walked into the witness circle as one human. He walked out as a signal. Somewhere across light years, eyes were turning toward Earth, and the galaxy was beginning to realize something unsettling. Humans did not fit neatly into existing systems. They questioned them. They stressed them. They revealed their flaws. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his voice was steady. Then we better make sure they learn the right lesson. Zyra met his gaze. Yes, she said softly, we must. And far beyond the palace, beyond the dominion, the first quiet alarms began to sound, political, cultural, existential. Because the witness circle had confirmed what many feared. Humanity was not a conqueror. It was a catalyst. And nothing ancient stays comfortable once a catalyst enters the system.